Over the next several days, 100 years ago, the greatest natural disaster in this country's history up to that time happened. 360 fatalities in Dayton, 20,000 homes destroyed. The damage in 1913, $100 million, would equate to $2 billion today. So how much water spilled into the city of Dayton? The equivalent of 4 days' flow over Niagara Falls, a rate of 100,000 cubic feet per second, and the water 20 feet deep in parts of the city. Here's the total rainfall over a several-day period: 8 to 10 plus inches across the northern Miami Valley, 6 plus inches south of Dayton, and it all funneling into the river system that converged right here in the city of Dayton. If it were to happen again today, the blue showing about how much of the city would be underwater. There's I-75, US 35, and the Great Miami River running through downtown Dayton. Now, there have been many floods before this. Throughout the 1800s, in fact, 10 major floods before 1913. They kept building the dirt levees higher. The next flood would wash them out. But in 1913, an amount of water that no levee system at that time could have held back. So how did it all play out? Well, we can use the daily weather maps put out by the Weather Bureau to kind of re-see how this all played out over the several-day period. And here's Dayton for reference for you as we go through several days here. Good Friday, March 21st. This is before the rains fell. A cold front with 50-mile-an-hour winds moved through and knocked out telegraph lines. That limited communication throughout the flood, which really complicated relief efforts. Saturday, March 22nd, high pressure, quiet weather. And then Sunday, March 23rd, a storm system develops with rain to the west, and that moved in on Sunday night. Monday, March 24th. Heavy rain across the entire region. The 25th, that front stalls out with more heavy rain. And the night of the 25th, the levees gave way and the water really started to pour in. The 26th, Wednesday, the front's still over us with more heavy rain. 27th, finally the system starts to move out. But to add insult to injury, it ended with a little bit of light snow here in the Dayton area. And finally, Friday, March 28th, high pressure and dry weather, and the relief efforts could really begin at that time. Could it happen again today? Thanks to the great work of the Miami Conservancy District and the dam and levee system we have in place, it's virtually impossible that we could see a repeat of the 1913 flood. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jamie Simpson, News Center 7.
Walking along the Great Miami River, it's hard to imagine the incredible devastation of the 1913 flood. Now, all these years later, we've been able to find one survivor still living, and now he's telling us his story.
Here I am, say, from the 1913 flood. I made it.
Robert Ferneding was just 8 months old when the floodwaters hit Dayton. The rising water forced the Ferneding family and thousands of other people from their homes. His father put him and Robert's mother into a rescue boat, but it struck a tree in the frigid, swirling water.
She grabbed that tree as it went around. The boat went on out, and 7 other women and their children were drowned. She heard them screaming.
Eventually, Robert and his mother were saved, but hundreds of others died and thousands were left homeless. The flood hit downtown Dayton and most of the inner city neighborhoods. Houses were lifted from their foundations and many businesses were destroyed. Eventually, those floodwaters subsided, leaving the city devastated. For months, the community cleaned up mountains of mud and debris. Brady Kress of Dayton History says the community raised $2 million locally to study the flood problem and fix it.
They weren't waiting for the federal taxpayer to pay the bill for the system. They said, how are we going to handle this? And they did.
They built a series of dams and levees in what was one of the biggest public projects of its time anywhere in the nation. The genius of that system is its simplicity.
The dams are built to hold back as much water as needed and let the rest pass through, so the river channels downstream can pass that water.
It was designed to hold back another flood as big as the one in 1913, plus 40% more water, making the city safe for development once again and allowing it to become a major industrial center.
It's been in use now for about 91 years, since 1922. It's been extremely effective.
Now at Carolyn Park, they're creating a new exhibit to show people what happened during the flood. It's a story of loss, rebirth, and promises made in the attic.
As they said on their signs, and as we say today, for the love of Dayton, let's make sure this doesn't happen again.
For 100-year-old Robert Ferneding, on this anniversary, he's thinking mostly of his mother who saved his life. Facing danger, she found a way for them to escape the raging waters of the Great Dayton Flood.
One step more and she'd have been drowned, so would I.
The story of the flood and the city's resurgence afterwards is also being told in this memorial to the victims. You'll find it in this small park right on Valley near Kiowee. In Dayton, Jim Oddie, News Center 7. Dayton's downtown managed to survive the 1913 flood, but ever since then, for decades following it, the river was seen as a dangerous liability. Now, though, just lately, that's all beginning to change for the better. Along Dayton's riverfront, the city is witnessing a rebirth. While the I-75 bridge is being modernized and rebuilt, nearby neighborhoods once devastated by floodwaters and decades of disrepair are making a comeback. Carrie Scarff of Five Rivers METROPARKS says there are plans here to do for the river what the park system's already done for bike paths.
We have our greenway system with our bikeways. Now we're going to create the blueway.
The plan is to make the river safe for people in canoes and kayaks, and add to that what they call water features, play spaces for kayakers drawn to the rapids.
That really opens up our river and gets people not just at the water's edge or up on the levee, they're down in the water.
It's got a water shedding deck.
Bernie Farley runs Whitewater Warehouse, a store that sells kayak equipment.
To me, you don't even have to be an optimist to know that this will be a success.
They'll begin by taking out the low dam at Monument Avenue. A $1 million challenge grant from the James M. Cox Foundation is making that possible. The dam is not needed for flood control. That's being done upstream at places like the Taylorsville Dam. It's one of a series of flood control structures built in the wake of the 1913 flood. So can they last another 100 years?
I think the intent is yes. I mean, the structures, they are now 90 years old. We have reinvested in them. The key is we have to keep reinvesting, keep maintaining.
As the city remembers the devastation of the flood 100 years ago and the power of water if it's left unchecked, the community is hoping to unleash a new force, an economic boost along the Great Miami.
It's going to have an economic impact in a positive way, and I think you're going to see more people coming to the shores of the Great Miami River.
Sandy Gudorf of the Downtown Dayton Partnership adds, we've come a long way from those many decades of fearing the river to now embracing it. The current plan is about attracting people and new jobs.
It's part of the overall picture of how do we bring vitality, more vitality and activity into our downtown.
Construction on the River Run project will begin next summer in 2014. Step one will be taking out the dam. In Dayton, Jim Oddie, News Center 7.